Welcome back, Giants fans. So, a couple of things first. First of all, I'm going to try not to talk too loud because the rest of my house is sleeping. Can't wake people up, so I won't be talking too loud. Number two, some news here for the channel. So, I think tomorrow I am recording with the entertainer, like a little season preview. Now, I don't know if it's going live or not. I guess we'll let you guys know on Twitter. And then I'm also talking to the Talking Giants guys. I don't know what day, but sometime before Sunday, hopefully. We're trying to pick a date here. But yeah, I have season previews coming up with those guys, some other Giants content creators. I love both of them. Well, I guess all three because we're talking about Justin too. Can't forget Justin, of course. But yeah, so let's get into the questions. I have a good amount here, so hopefully this video is not too long, but let's get into it. First question from Ray Sosa. So, gonna make me read a long one here to start off. I don't like you people with these long questions. I can't read. You guys know that. But given how we've seen the offensive line perform during preseason, what's your level of concern from a 1 to 10? Even though it was preseason, personally, I'm so worried about it struggling throughout the year, and it feels like it may hold the Giants back at a certain portion of the season. Outside of that, every other unit on the team feels like it's pretty set to take off. Keep up the great work, Mike. Thank you, Ray. So, my concern for the offensive line, wow, this is not going to be good. Probably an 8, 8.5. It's up there, maybe 9. I would say somewhere from 8 to 9. It's not total panic mode. It's not a 10. I feel like 10 is like if some guys were injured, like if Andrew Thomas was out for a while, if like Nick Gates was out for a while, that's like a 10. But the fact that mostly everyone's healthy, I know not Nick Gates, I know that Shane Lemieux probably is playing on one knee this year, it sounds like, but everyone else is healthy for the most part. The only concern we have is, are these guys good? That's the concern. So yeah, I would say an 8 to 9, somewhere in there. So it's a pretty good amount. We said every other position group. I would argue quarterback is one. We have to worry about Daniel Jones, of course, but I see what you mean there. I think offensive line probably has to be the one unit that can really hold his team back severely. So that's definitely the main concern. But yeah, I'm definitely concerned about them. I do hope that somehow the age kind of like, the fact that they were young last year, they were developing. Hopefully this year they all turn it around somehow. But yeah, preseason was not that good. It was not what you wanted to see, but they invested a good amount in these guys. Andrew Thomas was a top 5 pick. Matt Parrott was a 3rd round pick. You have Shane Lemieux, who was a 5th round pick. I get that. Nick Gates was a UDFA, but a really good find by the Giants. Who else did they have? I mean, Billy Price was a former 1st round pick. Bredesen from the Ravens, I think, was a former 4th or 3rd round pick. So these guys were taken kind of high in the draft. So it's not like they're putting out nobodies. Nate Solder once was a left tackle for New England for like a decade and did pretty well there. So yeah, it's not like they have nobodies here. And Will Hernandez was a former top of the 2nd round pick as well. So they have guys that were once looked at pretty highly, but they have not lived up to the expectations so far. But I do hope they figure it out, because if the offensive line plays as bad as they did in the preseason, it's definitely going to hold the Giants offense back. There's no doubt about it. Next question from Dave Campbell. Do the injuries already with Galladay and Jackson, or Dory Jackson, confirm the risk of signing the quote-unquote injury-prone athletes is a bad call? I'm glad you asked this question, because I have a pretty strong take about this one. I'm a person that during the offseason, I was advocating for this team to go out and sign Kenny Galladay, and when I found out Adoree Jackson was available, I was advocating for him as well. So I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite and say, the Giants shouldn't have signed those guys. They're injury prone. I can't say that. If I've said this before, I think. I don't know if it was on here, on Twitter, but I've said this before. If Kenny Galladay or Adoree Jackson never play a game for the Giants due to injury, God forbid that ever happens, it probably won't, but if it ever happens, I wouldn't blame the Giants. I wouldn't say Gettleman's a moron, Joe Judge is a moron, because this team needed it. Now, where you can argue is that the Giants, and mainly Gettleman because Judge has been here for 2 years, but, the Giants have put themselves in this situation where they had to kind of overpay for a wide receiver 1 and overpay for a cornerback 2, because they have not built their roster correctly the past, 3-4 off seasons. I mean, they did better in 2020, of course, but they put themselves in a position where they kind of had to overspend for Kenny Galladay and overspend for Dory Jackson. So that's the part where I say, okay, based on your lack of doing a good job building the roster in the past, that's where I can blame you. But I can't blame them because Kenny Galladay and Dory Jackson are already injured. I can't say that. I'm not going to play the whole, the whole hindsight thing and say like, I blame you for signing these guys because I can't. I was advocating for them to sign both these guys in the offseason. So if they happen to sustain a bunch of injuries, then that's tough crap. It is what it is. It's football. But yeah, I'm not going to be that guy that's going to be like, calling for Gettleman's job because of that. Like, that's not going to be the thing. So once again, if Adoree Jackson and Kenny Galladay are very much injured throughout their Giants tenure, it would suck, but I'm not going to blame the guys who signed them. I can't do that. Next from Pat Smith, what do you think the odds are that Daniel Jones really takes that next step and solidifies himself as our franchise quarterback this year? All right, so it depends what your definition of franchise quarterback is. The way I'm looking at it is like, what are the chances he becomes a top 10 quarterback in football, maybe even top 15? All right, we'll put it at top 15. What are the chances I think Daniel Jones becomes a top 15 quarterback? Right now, I'm probably at like 30%. I know people won't like that answer, but like I just need to see more from this guy, more consistency. There have been things I've seen from Daniel Jones, like especially the deep ball accuracy is one of them. The leadership skills he possesses and the way he works that will make me feel that he can be that guy. But there's also too many things that I see that just make me feel like he can't be that guy one day because of the lack of pocket awareness and all the bad decisions he makes and fumbling the ball and not making like crazy throws on the run like you see from Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. He doesn't have like that incredible arm talent that some of these other guys have. So, there are things that Daniel Jones is limited in, but like at the same time, it's not impossible for Daniel Jones to be a franchise quarterback. So I would put it at 30% right now as we sit here on September 6th. 30% chance, in my opinion, that Daniel Jones becomes a top 15 quarterback league-wide. So we'll find out how that one goes, but that's the way I look at it personally. Next question from King Priolo. I'm not pronouncing that one right. I already know, so my apologies for that. But so my man has 5 questions total. All right, I'll try to get to all these here. So the current state of the Giants, do you believe they can wait on the development of a rookie quarterback? I guess you mean if Daniel Jones is not good this year, yeah, I guess they would have to, right? Like, unless you're trading for an established guy, which I think you touch on here, would you consider Deshaun Watson an option? If I've said this before, I've been very vocal on Twitter about this, and some people love this take, some people don't like this take. If Deshaun Watson is not suspended any games, or if he serves a suspension this year, let's say this year he's suspended 8 games or something, he has the suspension this year, then by next year he's ready to play, I would give up a lot for Deshaun Watson. I would give up the 2 first-round picks we have next year, probably a future 3rd-round pick. I would give up Daniel Jones and probably like a Sterling Shepard or something. Like, I would give up a good amount for Deshaun Watson personally. I think Watson would be 26 or 27 by that point. He's a no doubt top 10 quarterback, has the talent to be top 5 as we know. So personally, I would trade a lot for Deshaun Watson. If there's a situation where the Giants have to draft a rookie quarterback, I don't know if the Giants would blow up the whole team, as you mentioned here, but like there are some pieces that probably will be moved on, I would think. I don't see them re-signing Evan Engram or Jabril Peppers if they have a 4 or 5 win season. I don't see that happening. There's going to be some guys that kind of on like the roster bubble in a way. Like if the Giants have a really bad year this year, there are going to be some guys that have to go, but you're not going to let go of Kenny Galladay. The dead cap hit would be too much, and Adoree Jackson, same thing. The guys that were newly signed, I don't see them going anywhere, but some of the guys that have been here for a little bit, yeah, I could see them moving on from some of them. There's not many guys on this team, though, that like hold much value. That's the thing. Like, James Bradbury's great, but not many teams are going to trade a ton for a corner that's like 28, 27. I think he's 28 now, but even Blake Martinez, they're not going to trade. You're not getting a first-round pick for Blake Martinez, so you have to realize the value of these guys. The most valuable player on the Giants right now, I have no idea who it is. Some may argue it's Saquon Barkley, but like how much is an NFL team in 2021, knowing what we know now about the running back position, how many teams are trading a first-round pick for a running back that's off his rookie contract? Probably not many. So there are some concerns about that. But the next 2 questions, what do you have to see from Daniel Jones this season that would justify not moving on at quarterback? So I'll answer that one first. What would I have to see? I want to see the playoffs. I know it's not completely on the quarterback, but I want to see the playoffs, especially in a weak division, 3 wild card spots. I want to see the playoffs. And I just want to see Daniel Jones just kind of take over some games. I'm not saying he has to throw for 500 yards, but so much of when Daniel Jones has won last year, in 2019, Daniel Jones put the team on his back some weeks and won those games. That's what I want to see. Like the first game he had against Tampa, team on his back. He had that week 16 game, the Chase Young Bowl, as we call it, the 5-touchdown performance, overtime win, put the team on his back. I know Saquon played very well in that game as well, but Daniel Jones put the team on his back. I need to see like at least 3 or 4 or 5 of those games where Daniel Jones puts the team on his back and gets the Giants into the playoffs, or at least like 9 wins or something respectable. So like that would probably be enough to justify it for me. If the Giants have a 8-9 win season and they somehow make the playoffs and they're getting carried by their defense and Daniel Jones is playing mediocre, that's probably not enough for me, because as I said, you're getting carried by your defense. So I have to see Daniel Jones take over some games at some points. Now, the next question: if the Giants attempt to move in a different direction, would you draft a new quarterback? So yeah, I have not done any draft research whatsoever. I'm not going to even step into those waters until like November, December. But there are some guys. Spencer Rattler, I believe, the North Carolina guy. I think his name is Sam Howell. There's a couple of like, who's the new guy? Malik Willis, I think his name is. There's another guy. So yeah, there's a few names out there. I have not really watched too much and seen too much from those guys. But as we know, the Giants have 2 first-round picks next year. So if they love a guy, they can move up and get him. I would assume if the Giants had a down year, that Gettleman doesn't last. So it would be a new GM who has no ties to Daniel Jones. And, Joe Judge wasn't here when Daniel Jones was drafted either. So it would be tough for Daniel Jones to survive that. So realistically, they may have to trade up for somebody next year if they don't have a high enough pick. So yeah, it's possible. I mean, I don't know how I feel about drafting one. My first option is Deshaun Watson, because he's 26, 27, and he's already established. That's my first option. But we'll see how I feel about these guys when the draft comes around. There might be a prospect I fall in love with, and hopefully it's not Josh Rosen part 2, but there may be a prospect that I really like, so we'll find out. But hopefully the Giants are not in a position next year where they have to draft a quarterback. It'd be a lot easier if Daniel Jones just was really good this year. Next from Mixed Sports, another 2 questions. You guys kidding me with this? But so number 1, how do you think Daniel Jones will do this year in your honest opinion, stat-wise? All right, so I wrote down a little stat thing in my notes section here. I'll just read them off for you. So for yards, I have 3,600 passing yards. I have 22 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 4 or 5 lost fumbles, and a 61 completion percentage. That's my honest Daniel Jones projection. So is that good enough? I mean, depends how the defense is, really, because that's like an average or slightly below average quarterback season. So that would be an improvement from last year, but I don't know if that's enough to make Daniel Jones a no-doubt franchise quarterback. And your second question: if the Giants don't make the playoffs and are like 8-9 or 7-10 and are healthy, including Daniel Jones, what do you think happens around the organization, upper management, coaches, and players having to leave because of that concern? Or because of that reason. I don't know why I read concern. Because of that reason. All right, so yeah, if they had a down year like that, I mean, that's like the crappiest way to do it, because like you'd rather have a high pick. It's either like you either want to be a great team or you suck. Like you don't want to be in the middle, and that's kind of where 8-9, 7-10 is. So hopefully the Bears would be terrible in that scenario. But yeah, I would think if they're 8-9 or 7-10, you would have to think they make a change at GM. I don't know how Gettleman will last another season of below 500, but you can't put anything past John Mara, honestly. But who would be the next GM? Probably Kevin Abrams. I have no idea. I mean, that wouldn't be the way I go about it, but I would kind of, if it was up to me, I'd want to interview guys around the league and bring guys in from actual good organizations that have been good for, the past half decade or so, or even a decade, because the Giants have been so incompetent at some points in the past decade. So I would bring in a different voice and not just promote from within. That's the way I would do it. I've said that for years, honestly. So the coaches, I think Joe Judge would stay. Now there's a whole awkward thing with that, because like if you fire a GM, you might bring in a guy who is vocal about the head coach he wants, and that head coach won't be Joe Judge. So if you hire a new GM who's like, I want this guy as my head coach, but you're like, no, you can't hire him because we have Joe Judge, then that GM may not take the job. So it's sometimes difficult to work around that. Sometimes it works out perfectly. Like a GM may come in and love Joe Judge, but if a GM comes in and is not really a Joe Judge fan, then like that's tough, because like you're not going to hire the best GM candidate in your mind, because he has to be tied to a certain head coach, which is why I said back in 2019, they should have fired Gettleman and Shermer together. And now we're kind of stuck in this predicament, because we all believe, most of us believe, that Joe Judge is a good head coach and is going to be a good head coach, but Joe Judge is probably not going to be fired this year unless it's like a 2-15 type season or something worse than that. So I don't see that happening. So if Gettleman leaves and Judge stays, then sometimes it makes it difficult to hire the next GM, but we'll see how that goes. And once again, they could just promote from within. That's probably the outcome with this team. And as I said with the players, I mean, there might be some veterans who are traded off and they try to start rebuilding again, which would suck. And I guess in that scenario, I mean, Daniel Jones probably would not play that well if they were 8-9 or 7-10, because we know that the best part of this team is the defense. At least we think so at this point. So I would assume the offense did not live up to the expectations there. But yeah, some players, as I mentioned, like Evan Engram, guys like that probably would not be back here, but the young guys would probably stay. Some of the guys they signed this past offseason, Galladay, Adoree, they'll probably stay because you don't want to eat up the dead cap space. We saw that with Odell. When the Giants traded Odell, they had to take like $16 million of dead cap space back, which was like one of the reasons I did not like the trade at the time, because like, why would you sign Odell for 5 years, 90 something million, and then trade him a year later and like take all this dead cap space? So that's, one of my problems with it, but hopefully we don't have to face that once again. Next from Noah Rivera: do you think Galladay, Toney, and Rudolph will play week 1? Also, I think the offensive line is at least decent. Also, I think if the offensive line is at least decent, then we will make the playoffs easy. All right, easy. I have faith in DJ. All right, well, look, I'm not going to hate on you for being optimistic. That's definitely good. I wish I was more like you, honestly. But as for Galladay, Toney, Rudolph, I think Galladay plays. It sounds like Toney's playing, and Rudolph may have to play because Evan Engram is not a safe bet to play week 1. And I saw Caden Smith was like not at practice today, so like he may have to play. They may have to rush him back, honestly. So the Giants tight end group is not looking it's not looking good right now. Definitely not healthy. The offensive line, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to with the Giants. If the offensive line's decent, as long as Daniel Jones isn't garbage, like they should be fine. Like I've said this before, if the Giants have an average offense, this team should be fine. Like they're not going to win 13 games, but like they should be at least a 9 or 10 win team with an average offense, because their defense, while they may slightly regress, is going to be pretty good for the most part. Their secondary in a passing league should be able to, do a good job against most of these pass heavy teams. I know they play the Bucs and the Chiefs this year and teams like that, even like the Chargers who want to pass the ball a ton, but like having a great secondary is going to help out a lot. So like the Giants defense should be fine. And if the offense is average, then why can't you make the playoffs? There's no excuses at that point. So we'll see. But I think it's very possible to make the playoffs if the offensive line holds up. So that's what we have to hope for. Next from King26 Reyes: where do you think we go with our 2 first-round picks next year? So if it's a high pick, you would have to assume that Daniel Jones probably doesn't play well. So one of them is going to quarterback in that case. If it's a low first-round pick and the Giants have a good season, then I think one of them is probably going to go to pass rusher. I think the Giants have to get an alpha pass rusher at some point. I have high hopes for Azeez Ojulari, but like I don't know if he's going to be like a top 10 pass rusher anytime soon. Hopefully he is, but you can't rely on that for a second round pick. So yeah, that could be possible. If the offensive line struggles again, they may have to address tackle, whether it's left tackle or right tackle. If it's Andrew Thomas, Matt Parrott who has a down year, they may have to address that as well. And once again, quarterback if Daniel Jones has a down year. So from Frank: do you think the Bears are going to have us get a good pick? If so, Frank, you're killing me with the spelling, my guy. If so, who do we draft if we do have 2 good picks? Do we get a legit edge rusher and other offensive tackle? So yeah, it's pretty much ties in with the other question. Yeah, if the Giants, if we have a good pick, quarterback can definitely be addressed. But let's say for some reason Daniel Jones has a great season and the Giants have a good first-round pick. I don't know how that would correlate, but let's just say it happens. Then, yeah, I think edge rusher and offensive tackle is probably a good way to go about it. Very high positions on the positional value charts, I guess you can say, and I definitely love taking my shots on the more important positions, and I think edge rusher and tackle are very impactful positions in the NFL, so I would not mind that whatsoever. Frank's got a couple more here. So if our offensive line plays well, I believe we can be a very good team and make the playoffs. But if our offensive line struggles, you think we go with an offensive lineman like Neal next year? So I heard about this guy, left tackle. I don't know what school he is. He's 6'7", I think. I don't know much about him. As I said, I don't really do the whole draft research. I'm not one of those like college football addicts that sits on the couch all day Saturday. I do that on Sunday, so I can't. Like, if I spent my whole weekend on the couch, it would not be good for me. I'm already putting on weight as it is in my older age here, but yeah, I try not to just watch college football all weekend. But I have heard good things. So like if the Giants end up with two very high picks and one of them has to be a quarterback, but they also have this Neal guy at left tackle with like the fifth overall pick or something, then yeah, I could see that happening. It would suck to move off of Andrew Thomas after 2 freaking years, but like if he's that bad, then you kind of have to maybe go back to the well at left tackle, which would suck, but that's just kind of the reality if Andrew Thomas has another really bad year. Frank also asked, I think we can sweep the division. Whoa, Frank. Like the Cowboys' defense isn't that good. Philly isn't that good. I don't think. Wait, Frank, you're killing me with the spelling, dude. I think only games we can lose are the Chargers if they stay healthy, Chiefs, Tampa Bay if staying healthy. Okay, so I kind of get this. All right, so first off, if they sweep the division, I'll give you $100, which is a lot of money for me. So like, it may not be a lot to you. I don't know like what you do for a living and all that, but $100 is a lot to me. So I will give you $100 if the Giants go 6-0 versus our crappy division. I will give you that. Also, so I see what you mean with this one. Like you're talking about like the automatic losses on the schedule, which we shouldn't say. It's any given Sunday. I think any given Monday, because I think 2 of these games are on Monday. But you got to take it game by game. I get that whole thing. But yeah, the Chiefs, Tampa Bay, and the Chargers even should be really good teams this year. I mean, especially the Bucks and the Chiefs. But yeah, I mean, they should compete in every other game. I don't expect the Giants to get blown out in any games except for the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay ones. I mean, there are a couple, the Rams too. I do like the Rams. So like there may be 2 or 3 games the Giants aren't very competitive in, and you touched on a couple of them here. But if they sweep the division, that's tremendous, and they should get a couple more wins with like the Raiders and the Panthers even. Like they should get to, like, if they sweep the division, they should get to 9 or 10 wins, no problem. So if that happens, then I think we're looking pretty good. Next from Magic Zoom, since you think Joe Judge is responsible for every good move, I remember this question. Since you think Joe Judge is responsible for every good move when he arrived, is he responsible for this O-line mess? Are you gonna pin it all on Gettleman? So yeah, I have a strong take about this one as well. I think ever since Joe Judge came in here, people have different opinions about how much say Joe Judge has with this team. I think Joe Judge, based on what we've seen, has a pretty, I don't know, like he has more say than a guy like Pat Shurmur or even Ben McAdoo. I think that Joe Judge definitely has some personnel decisions being made, and I don't know if it's all through him or what. Like they always say it's collaborative, but like you can tell based on the moves they've made that Dave Gettleman's entire philosophy has changed in recent years. I mean, Dave Gettleman has built some decent secondaries in the past, but like there was also a time where he trotted out Curtis Riley and Antoine Bethea and all those guys. With Joe Judge here, he completely helped fix the secondary or made it more of a priority. I'm not going to act like Joe Judge is the guy signing everybody, but like the secondary is a lot better now. They traded back in the draft twice, which like that has Joe Judge written all over it, unless Gettleman completely changed his philosophy once again. Like I don't think Dave Gettleman, like 8 or 9 years into being a GM, is all of a sudden like, maybe I should trade back. That sounds like a good idea. Like I don't think I think Dave Gettleman's more of a stuck in his old ways type of guy. I think Joe Judge is a good voice for this team. I'm not going to act like Joe Judge is signing every single guy, but I do think that Joe Judge has some influence on who they're going after and what position groups are getting better and like trading back in the draft and those type of things. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that every good move is Joe Judge. I've never made it out like that, but the way the Giants have built their team has been noticeably different since Joe Judge has taken over. So like that's the way I'm going about it. There are some things Gettleman, is known for, like the Kelvin Benjamin signing, for instance. That one I'm definitely pitting on Gettleman, because do you really think Joe Judge is sitting there and saying to Dave Gettleman, you know what, let's go sign Kelvin Benjamin, who has been out of the league for 3 years, he's overweight, let's bring that guy in? That has to be Dave Gettleman. Like it's just, that's such a Dave Gettleman move, because he drafted him in Carolina, so like he would probably want to bring him back. And like even like the Devontae Booker had Gettleman vibes, because like Gettleman has this infatuation with the veteran running backs. The Jonathan Stewart signing he's most famous for here, and then taking Barkley second overall is one of the most talked about things for Giants fans. And when it comes to running backs, that's like more of a Gettleman thing. So maybe Joe Judge had influence on the Devontae Booker thing. I have no idea, but I've said this before as well. If Kadarius Toney is a bust, if Andrew Thomas is a bust, I'm giving Joe Judge a blame as well. Now, at the end of the day, one guy's a GM and one guy's a head coach. So, the guy who's picking the players, that's what a GM is. You're supposed to be picking players and making personnel moves. It's going to fall on the GM just naturally because that's his title and his position. But Joe Judge, in my opinion at least, is going to get some blame from me. If Kadarius Toney is not good or if Andrew Thomas is not good. To me, I think Joe Judge deserves some of the criticism because I do think he had some say in those picks. I will say I don't have any proof of that, but I do believe that Joe Judge, based on the differences we've seen from 2018, 2019's off seasons as compared to 2020 and 2021's off seasons, there have been noticeable differences. So I choose to believe that Joe Judge has some say with the personnel moves, and I think it's more than the previous head coaches. But I'm not going to sit here and say everything is Gettleman's fault. Of course, Barkley, Daniel Jones, that's going to fall on Gettleman. That's kind of the way it is. That was, Shermer's gone. You can't blame him. If Daniel Jones fails, if Saquon Barkley's never healthy, that's going to fall on Gettleman. But the Andrew Thomas moves, the moves post 2020, I'm going to bring Joe Judge into it. I think that's the only fair way to do it. So Frank also asked, are you going to do a video prediction of the Bears since we have their pick? It's going to be a busy week here for me, I think. So I'm probably not going to do it, but I did make a whole hour-long video of NFL predictions. I had the Bears at 7-10, so that would probably put us at I don't know, pick 10 to 15 or something in there. So, I don't think the Bears are going to be that good. So, probably would be somewhere around the pick 10, 11, 12. So, that's my opinion at least. From Milena, are you ready for some football? I'm also ready for Sam Darnold to throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns against the Jets week 1. How about that? Anyway, last question from Rahul, Talk Sports. Will Daniel Jones break out? I don't know. Is this a yes or no question? Are you setting me up here? I will say this. The Giants didn't put Daniel Jones in a good position based on the offensive line and his play caller. This is my argument with Daniel Jones. I was never a huge Daniel Jones fan prior to the draft. I looked at him as an average quarterback. I said, all right, this guy's ceiling is probably Alex Smith. That's the way I worded it back on the night he was drafted. But what the Giants have done for this kid is give him an awful play caller in Jason Garrett, an awful offensive line in front of him. He now has weapons, but if they can't keep him upright, then what the hell is the point of the weapons? So they're not putting him in a good position to succeed, and I also never thought that Daniel Jones was a guy that can overcome a bad team around him. So if I'm guessing right now, I'm saying no, he probably doesn't break out, but I gave you the stat line before. I've had, the 3,600 passing yards, 22 passing touchdowns, 11 picks, and 61 completion percentage. I think he can put up a respectable year, but I don't think a breakout is in the realm of possibility unless the offensive line plays out of its mind and Jason Garrett turns into Andy Reid overnight. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I'm sorry to be kind of pessimistic about that one, but that's just my honest answer. So that will do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Once again, I have the season previews with the Entertainer, the Talking Giants guys coming out in the coming days. Hopefully you stay tuned for those. I think they're going to be on my channel because I reached out to them. I think it's how it works. But anyway, we'll find out about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.